Hello and welcome back to my channel. I've had a really nice week this week. I think the weather helped a little. With the sunshine it was nicer to get out walking, apart from we had one really bad rainy day, but we still walked. We got wet through but we walked. I actually took a day off walking this week but still maintained a reasonable mileage with 42.2 miles. Combined with my plan of 2 A's, 2 B's, 11 sins, and the 2 Marks and Spencer's plain scones I had on Saturday night, which left me with a total of 103 sins for the week, I maintained this week, and I'm really happy with that. I've eaten well, I've exercised well, I've lived a full life this week with its ups and downs. I haven't overreacted to anything, which is progress for me, and I got to maintain. So I'm smiling, happy with that. Have moved my target this morning. My group leader graciously said, would I like to move my target to 10 stone 7 from 10 stone 10, because I was under target nearly every week. And we had a little chat about it and decided that my body's seeming to like where it's at the moment. So she was gracious about it because it was supposed to be a half stone move, but she allowed me to just drop my target £3, which I think will be really beneficial. Yeah, I'm happy about that. I feel confident in that. It doesn't feel like pressure. So that's good. Thanks, Naomi. We had a lovely group this morning. We talked about a few interesting things actually. We were talking about the sheets that are available in group to help us, tracking, etc. And a chap in group mentioned about tracking online, which I never use, but I believe it's useful. The sheets in group that, of course I don't use them, then written things are no good for me, but that are there for other people. Of course we have the food diary. We have the SP food diary, we have the for and against list, which we can pick up, and we also have the SAS log. Now for people who are really stuck, we can get stuck in a rut, can't we? But for people who are actually stuck and can't explain why they're maintaining or gaining a half pound, losing a half pound, I think this SAS log is really helpful. It stands for Slimmers Against Sabotage. I hadn't realised that. But it takes you deeper into keeping a food diary. You have to really, it asks you questions like, is this an A? How have you counted this? Is it sins? Makes you look closer at weighing and measuring and being entirely precise, not guesstimating, but actually weighing and measuring and being really precise about things. Now, I've seen a couple of people over the last few months use this SAS log, and these have been ladies who've been spot on plan and really committed, but when they've used the SAS log, it's just tightened up those few things that can trip us up. So I'm assuming it's available in every group, and if you haven't come across it, look for it. And maybe if you're in that position, and I've been there, I know what that feels like, how you can get disheartened with yourself. But if you're in that position of gaining a half, losing a half, sticking a bit, maybe it's something worth asking your consultant about or picking up from the table. So that's the SAS log. There's a lovely lady in my group who buys me this, Uncle Ben's whole grain rice. I think it's because one day we were talking about brown rice and I said I actually do prefer brown to white, and I certainly know that when my son eats rice he prefers brown. But I was moaning, I'm always moaning about something, but I was moaning about the fact that brown rice takes so long to cook, because most of them it's 25-30 minutes to boil. Now this was developed by this kind lady's husband. He was one of the team who developed it for Uncle Ben's. And it is whole grain, but it only takes 10 minutes. Now, this is loose in the box, but you can get the boil in the bag version. So just for those of you who aren't aware of it, it's a fast cook brown rice and it's free. So that's just something to bring to the table. Right, Um, Going back to what I was talking about last week. Oh no, before I do that, I'm going to touch on my word for the week. My word for this week is boundaries. Now, I'm finding as I get further into maintaining a weight loss, I'm having to set myself boundaries. This is my limit, my limit for today is 2 A's, 2 B's, 11 sins, not 2 A's, 2 B's, 13 sins. I'm still trying to find that balance for my body, excuse me, so I need to set boundaries. Now, so often in life, so often in my life I lived without boundaries. What the hell was my attitude? If I want it, I'm bloody well going to have it. And that was usually a feeling very much against my well-being, very much against what was best for me. And often those feelings came out of me being lazy. So I'd come in at the end of the day, I'd planned to cook a healthy meal. I was tired, I was hungry, I couldn't be bothered. I am a lazy person by nature. I'm not an easily motivated person. And my boundaries were non-existent. So was it a case of put a bit of effort in and make a meal, or sod it, get a takeaway, go to the chippy, make some cheese and onion sandwiches? And so often it was sod it. I didn't care enough about myself to put those boundaries in place. And I am learning as I go through this maintenance journey that boundaries are what makes the difference for me. So for today, I have my boundaries. Yes, I'll eat out, but I'll eat out on plan. Yes, I'll have a dessert if I want one, but it's got to be on plan. And as there are very few desserts on plan, then I prefer to go without. I prefer to have a coffee. I'll wait until everybody else has chosen their desserts, and then I'll say, actually, truthfully, I'm full. I'll just have a coffee, please. That works better for me today, to have that boundary in place. There are no fuzzed edges. There's no doubt in my mind. This is the way I do it. And it's helping me. But I also realise there are times when boundaries can be the thing that encompasses my comfort zone. And there are some comfort zones that I maybe need to push out of on occasions. Now, you'll have all heard me talk about my walking. And I started from a place where I couldn't walk 500 yards without wanting to come home and die. And I've built that up gradually with Joe's help, because I can't go out walking on my own. Being totally blind, it's not practical. But with Joe's help, we've built that up. And he's a great encourager and he's a motivator, and that's in his nature. But he also pushes me. When I do the whine, let's cut this bit off today, he does that, oh no, we've committed. We're not going down the left-hand side of the river. We're crossing the bridge, going down the right-hand side. It only adds a mile, and he'll push me. And sometimes I need that. But I'm also learning now there are occasions when I need to push myself. So I tend to walk 7 days a week, averaging between 5 and 7 miles. Now, we didn't walk on Wednesday this week because we had to go somewhere a good distance away, and we were out all day in the car. And when we got back, Joe was going to the gym, so there wasn't really a convenient time for us to go walking. And to be perfectly frank, after sitting in the car for a long, long journey, I didn't feel like it. But I got up on Thursday morning feeling I need to make up for that. And I got energy, and I ate well, and we set off. And Joe had suggested a little extra loop at the start of the walk we were doing, because we were walking into Nottingham, and we live in a town outside Nottingham. We were walking into Nottingham, and we were looking for something new in the furniture line, so I was motivated. I like buying furniture and bits and bobs to build a nice simple home. So I was motivated. So Joe suggested adding a loop to the start of the walk, which added just over a mile probably to the start of the walk. And off we went. And it was a beautiful day. It wasn't too hot. It was sunny, but it was windy. And nice walking weather. And we walked into town. And we walked miles around John Lewis's. We walked quite a good distance around the House of Fraser. And then we decided to go to TK Maxx, which was a bit further into town, and we did quite a way around there. And then we looped back and we walked back towards the river. And Joe said, as he walked along the tram track, let's do the same loop at the end of the walk that we did at the beginning. And I thought, yeah, I can do this. I'm pushing myself. And I had a bit of a spring in my step, which is quite unusual. And I thought, this is good. This feels good. And it's out of my comfort zone. I don't think I've ever walked this far in one go. And take into account, we sat down for 10 minutes and had a cold drink, and also sat down for 10 minutes and had some hot sweet corn, because there's a new chappie in town who has a lovely little food store from Malaysia, and he sells hot sweet corn. And okay, if you want to, you can add pizza flavourings or other flavourings, but if you want to just have it plain, it's gorgeous and it's free on plan. So we did sit for 10 minutes and I had some hot sweet corn because I'd forgotten to take my hi-fi bars. But we kept walking and we did this extra hill and we came home. And when I checked my Fitbit, I'd done 10.2 miles. Now, I enjoyed it and I arrived home still with a spring in my step. If I'd thought about it before I left home and thought I'm going to go out and walk 10 miles, I might have scared myself and not done it. But actually, because I pushed through that boundary, my 7-mile boundary, and went out of my comfort zone, I came home with a real, I don't know, lightness of step, and I achieved something. So what I'm saying is there are good boundaries to have. For me today, there are good boundaries to have. Places I won't go beyond that involve food. But when it comes to exercise, sometimes it's really good to just push myself through that boundary and go a bit out of my comfort zone. I watch Ria von Chock and she talks about her trampoline fit and she does aqua aerobics and her treadmill and her weights. Ria, for me, is a fabulous example of somebody just pushing through those boundaries, adding a bit more, doing a bit more, and it's a great encouragement to the rest of us. So for me, it's walking, isn't it? I don't think I could do aqua aerobics and follow the class, I don't think I could do trampoline fit and stay bouncing in one place or whatever. But there's something out there for all of us. I thought I didn't like exercise. I would make every excuse not to do any form of exercise, including housework. But there comes a time in this journey, this weight loss journey, when you actually do want to pick it up and go run with it or bounce with it or lift weights with it. So just to encourage other people, watch Von Chock's videos that include exercise and other people's exercise bits and bobs, because there'll come a time in your journey where you'll feel like doing it, hopefully like I do today. So boundaries, that's my word for this week. Either set some or push through some. Okay. I'm going to go back to what I touched on last week about the gastric band. Now, I expected I might get some flack over this, and you have all been so lovely and so gracious and so supportive. I didn't understand the gastric band, not at all. I didn't know anybody who'd had one. I didn't have anybody to talk through it with. I'm no good at looking at forums and things on the internet because I have a speech system on my computer that doesn't work well with that. But I'm also better to look into things for myself and do my own homework and come to my own decisions, because then at least if it goes wrong, I'm not having to blame somebody else. I have to take responsibility for my own actions. A friend talked to me about considering a gastric band because she knew the mess I was in. Now, over the years, I've been such a binge eater, such a compulsive eater, followed by such a dieter, I live in starvation mode for a while, that my body has taken a real hammering. And I genuinely believe today, I know from speaking to doctors, that I had stretched my esophagus and stretched my stomach so many times to such an extent. If you can visualise a balloon that's been blown up once and let down, it's still pretty much just the original balloon. But if you keep doing that to something, year after year after year, eventually it doesn't go back to where it started. It sags, it grows, it doesn't deflate in the same way. So I use that as an example to think about what I did to my esophagus, what I did to my stomach. I kept stretching it, then underfeeding it, then stretching it some more, then underfeeding it. And also for many years I was bulimic, so I would grossly overeat. I don't just mean a couple of extra slices of bread, I mean grossly overeat. And then spend hours vomiting food up so I could eat again. Now, it makes me shudder now to think what I did. And by the grace of God, I do not do that anymore. So I know there is life after bulimia. But you pay a price for it. If you keep it up for many years, you pay a price for it. The same price that you pay for the skin. I mean, I know now that I am so much smaller of a person than I used to be, that there is no way my skin is ever going to go back to that of a 18 to 25-year-old, or even a 25 to 35-year-old. Because again, think of it like a balloon. I've blown it up, I've deflated it, I've blown it up, I've deflated it. And I have got surplus skin now. But I think it was Emma G who said, there are war wounds. It's no good being ashamed of them. I'm never going to wear a bikini, but I don't think I expect to at the age I am today for the first time. I'm never going to be confident about my bingo wings. I'm just grateful I don't play bingo and have to wave my arms around. I don't cover up my arms over much, like some people prefer to wear longer sleeves. I'll wear a cap sleeve. I'm not wholly confident in sleeveless things, but I think I would today. I'm past caring, to be honest. If somebody walks behind me and doesn't like my bingo wings, they can walk past me. It's not going to influence my decisions about what I wear today. I am showing signs of wrinkling around the tummy, but I've had a child. I've had 3 pregnancies, but I've had a child. I've been massive in my time. I'm not massive today. But I could wear a t-shirt tucked in today and feel comfortable with it. Never been in that place before, but I'm not going to wear a crop top. So, you know, think about it. The body I've got today is the body I deserve to have today. But the damage I had done to my internal parts, everything was stretched. So feeding me, putting, you know, food into me was a bit like casting gravel into the Grand Canyon. Nothing filled me. I don't know that I ever knew what it felt like to be satiated. I do today. I could have eaten and eaten and eaten and eaten and thrown up. Or I could have eaten and eaten and eaten and eaten and then eaten some more, and then an hour later eaten some more, and then half an hour later eaten some more. I never knew when to stop. Now, I'm not saying everybody's like that. I don't think we're all made that way. I think some people can eat or overeat, but still know when to stop. I just didn't. I didn't have that switch, in my brain that said enough. Never understood enough. So because of the damage I've done, and what I'm going to get around to now is talking about the gastric band, because of the damage I've done, however much I dieted, I was always empty. So I did my homework. I looked into the situation of a gastric band. I never approached the NHS because I didn't want what they were offering, even if they would have offered it to me, which I very much doubt. I think I would have had to go through hoops to get it, and it would have been a long journey. I did my homework and I looked at the gastric band, and I learned that if I had a gastric band, it could give me some control of my esophagus, which gave me some control of actually noticing the food going down instead of it just kind of falling into a bottomless pit. I said last week that I had considered 2 surgeons. Both of these men are excellent, but one is based in Leeds, which is, I think, about 70 miles maybe from where I live, and one is based at the BMI Park Hospital, only about 15 miles from where I live. In some ways that swayed my choice because I was conscious of needing aftercare and not wanting to have to get to Leeds every time I needed to see my consultant. Looking at both men, I was impressed with both of them, but I made the choice to go with Mr. Beckingham, who was closer to home. And I've been so pleased with the work he's done for me. I chose to go for counselling first to make sure I was making the right decision. Concluded I was. I then saw a dietitian at the Park Hospital quite a few times, went through everything with him about my diet, about the way I ate, about why I ate, about the history of my binge eating, about my bulimia. Everything laid on the table. No, secrets kept. And we came to the conclusion it was a good thing for me to do. Then saw Mr. Beckingham, went through everything with him about why I needed to do what I needed to do. And then they expect you to try to lose some weight. Now, they don't say to you, you've got to go away and lose a stone in 6 weeks or something like that. They ask you to try, or he asked me to try and lose some weight purely for the safety of the operation. Because, of course, general anaesthetics, morbid obesity, risk. You've got to be aware of the risks. So I did manage to lose some weight. I don't know how, to be honest. I just knew that I wanted to do this more than I wanted to eat. So I had my surgery on the 8th of March 2010. I got all my years mixed up last week. When I was talking about when I did the lipotrim, I was 10 years out, so disregard all those dates. But I had my surgery on the 8th of March 2010. And then I got blasé. Let me just say, when you have your surgery and you have it done privately, 6 weeks after surgery, they put the first fill in your band. Now, Mr. Beckingham chose to put a 6mm fill in my 10mm band, which gave me restriction. And for the first while, you're on a liquid diet and a soft food diet. But of course, I pushed that because I had a passion at that time for eating hazelnut. That's soft food, isn't it? No. So I was eating hazelnut and stuff I shouldn't eat. And of course, chocolate slips through a gastric band. And then I learned that biscuits and cakes slip through a gastric band. And any kind of pudding slipped through my gastric band. And pork pie slipped through my gastric band if I chewed it enough. And I abused it. And I put weight on. What did I expect? It's not a magic wand. You have to curb your eating. So, yeah, the story is I had my gastric band, I gained weight. Mr. Beckingham was very kind but very firm and told me to clean my act up. And I cleaned my act up. And it was a long journey, and I'm not going to go into it all today. I can touch on it again in the future. But he told me in no uncertain terms that with a gastric band he could guarantee I would lose 70% of my excess weight. And I did. It took me 5 years, slowly. First of all, I went from my highest weight to 16 stone, about 16 and a half stone. Then I plateaued for about a year. Then I started to lose again. And I went down to 13 stone 8. And then however hard I tried, I could not lose any more. That was my 70%. That's what the gastric band offers me. There have been times when I've had my band tightened a bit or loosened a bit. At the moment, I think I've got about 5.5 mils in it, and it seems to be working perfectly safely. If you have your band too tight, you will be sick regularly. That is not the way to lose weight. If that's happening to you, I would say go see your consultant. It's too tight. I'm just going to touch now on, when I got to 13 stone 8, that's when I joined Slimming World, because I knew it would, he told me to get to my final target would be blood, sweat and tears. Well, for blood, sweat and tears, read Slimming World, because it worked for me. The reason I chose not to go to the NHS, one of the reasons I chose not to go to the NHS, was because I read about it, and I don't know if this is true for every National Health Service area, but it is true for mine, because we don't do gastric bands in Nottingham, we have to go to Derby. And what they were offering was such slow, small band fills that it would have taken me about 3 years, I believe, to get to where he took me in one fill. And I didn't have those years to waste. Now, I chose to pay for my gastric band, and not everybody is in that position. I was just really lucky that I had a very kind husband, that he understood why I needed it doing. And we didn't have money to burn, and we didn't have money to throw away, and we're not rich. But we decided, I've never told anybody this before, and here I am telling a lot of you. We put it on our mortgage, and we paid it off over 2 years. And that was the way I afforded to have it done when I needed it doing. Yeah, that's the truth, and I want to be truthful. So here I am today. I still have a gastric band. It isn't tight. It enables me to feel satisfied when I've eaten. I can still eat chocolate, I can still eat cake, I can still eat bread, I can still eat anything I want. But today, because of my gastric band and the feeling of being satiated, and because of Slimming World and the education I've got through that, I actually have learned enough about myself to put those boundaries in place. And I'm actually enjoying my relationship with food today. There are still food issues I've talked about in the past, like pork pies and salad creams and things I choose not to have in my house. There is still a thing at the back of my mind that says I could overeat on chocolate. For today, I don't. Just for today. I won't say I'll never eat chocolate again, but I haven't had any this week. There is half an Easter egg in the cupboard of Joe's. I might have it tonight. It depends. I'll see how I feel later. I don't desperately need to eat it. I know it's there and it doesn't shout to me. They're the differences between the Jane today and the Jane of the past. If I knew it was there in the past, I had to eat it. Today I don't have to. And I'm really grateful for that. And it is an ongoing journey, isn't it? You know, all I've got is today. All I have to manage is today. And that's enough for me. And I love watching all your videos and your vlogs and your experiences. And I am really, really grateful for some of the wonderful and, well, just lovely comments I get from people who are becoming friends on this journey. You are so kind. You are so encouraging. And I hope in turn I can give a little back. I'm going to do a giveaway when I get to the beginning of June and my 6 months of maintaining. So keep watching for that. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please stay with me because your support helps me so much. It encourages me so much. And it's just lovely to know I'm not alone. So thank you to all of you. Thank you for those who comment regularly because it's just lovely. It's really, really lovely to know you're there. And I'm not just talking to a camera and I'm not just talking to myself. And that there are people out there who really care. And I care too. So, you know, if anything I can do to help you, just ask. You find my email address on the About Me part of my channel. Just want to say a public thank you to Joe for everything he does to help me. We've now started making my breakfast, or Joe does, every other night. So he makes me 2 overnight Weetabix. So the next 2 days is covered. Often now when we cook lunch, he'll cook me enough for 2 days. So I just have to warm it up. Or he'll make me 2 salads and things like that. And, you know, a public thank you to him because he's brilliant. And I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for him. Bless him. And if I could get him on camera one day standing next to me, which I'll try and do, you will see how much weight I've lost because Joe is 6 feet tall and he actually weighs what I've lost. So I'll try and sort that, either get a photograph of us that I can show you or get him on camera next to me. But thanks, Joe. You're a brick. Thank you to all of you. I'll see you next week. Bye.